Hi, my name is Justin Glover, and you are listening to episode, 100 already? Yes, you are listening to episode 100 of the Results 513 show, the show where high-performing entrepreneurs go to step into their power and take their life and business to new levels. And in this episode, we're going to reflect back over the first 100 episodes. Well, kind of, not really. Maybe we'll do that in a different episode. Plus, you're going to learn the secrets to becoming more consistent in your life and business. If you have not done so yet, do yourself a favor, run over to results513.com/show, download the free gift that we put together for you. It's called the 15 must-have tools to be insanely productive in your business. Not just productive, but insanely productive. This gift will jumpstart your productivity almost instantly. If you're a high performer, you're going to love this. So go download it now, read it, apply it, and start winning. Finally, if you want a raw, behind-the-scenes look at the Results 513 show, you can follow me on Snapchat. My username is Justin Lee Glover. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we start the show, we're going to take 18 seconds to have a quick gratitude dance party. As the music plays, think of one thing you're grateful for right now. 3, 2, 1. Brown chicken, brown cow. Hey everybody, what's going on? Justin Glover here with Brenda Gagne. Welcome.
It is a special day today.
Welcome to episode 100.
Woohoo!
Finally.
Not finally, already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun. So we're talking about consistency. But Brenda, 100 episodes relatively quickly. What is your opening argument, your opening statement for this episode now that we are officially here and this is episode 100 and your dog is making an appearance in the background?
Sorry. Yeah, there she is. She's trying to get comfy doing her circles.
And she's down.
There she is. She's good.
So if you're just listening to the audio and you're not actually seeing our face, we are here live for you at the Results 513 show blog. So results513show.com, results513.com/100 will be where you can go to see our pretty face and Brenda's dog.
Yep.
So any opening statements before we dive into this episode?
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, congratulations really goes out to you. I mean, I come on these episodes a couple times a week, but you are the one that is behind this entire thing, the entire production, putting it together, coming up with the content. Sometimes I help with that, but this is your baby and you've done an amazing job with it. And so for 100 episodes, I was like, well, first off, this is like a celebration because not only did you do 100 episodes, but you did it in the first 3 months of the year. And that is all due to consistency, which is why we're definitely going to talk about consistency. But I think it's amazing. So the fact that we got here, probably one of the fastest ways you could possibly do, or fastest podcast that possibly hit 100. I don't know that from any stats, but I know there's not that many people that have started a podcast brand new and have hit 100 episodes in just 3 months. So congratulations for you and for us and all of you listeners. We're so glad to actually have you here. But
100 episodes is a lot of great, there's a lot of content talked about in 100 episodes. It's crazy to really think about that there's been that many episodes so far already.
Right.
Right. It went by really quickly.
Well, and there's some people that are doing podcasts and shows, they maybe do 2 a month, and that's literally what they're doing. And how long would it take them to put out as much content? And these aren't like 10-minute little things. Some of these are an hour, some are 20 minutes. So there's a lot of really great content that you have given out, that we have given out. And so my first question that I'm going to ask you today is why? Why? Like, that's the question right now. Why did you want to do a 7-day-a-week podcast, and how has it been? I mean, let's just reflect for just a moment on that.
So, for me, the question that sort of started all of this, and I mentioned this in some of the early episodes, is I was asking, what could be the best possible contribution that I could make to the business. And that led to, okay, well, based on my experience of growing two businesses at that time, what do I know to be true about business that I can really make this decision from? And what I got was, well, the more value you put out, the faster your business will grow. And so that was sort of the starting point. I knew I wanted to put content out. I knew I wanted to be consistent with it because I knew that was another key, just being consistent. I knew that it wasn't going to, take off and have 1 million viewers on episode 1 or anything like that, and I had to be consistent and the show would grow. But I got to thinking, all right, well, every single piece of content that we put out, there's an opportunity for somebody new to hear it. Somebody new to come into our world, consume a piece of content. Maybe it was shared from someone else that got value, or maybe they just were browsing through iTunes and decided, you know what, I want to check out this new podcast called The Results 513 Show or whatever. But they come to the content, they hear it, and now all of a sudden we have a listener. So I knew that every day that goes by without new content being out there, we're missing the potential to get new listeners for the show. And we know that not every listener is going to listen to every episode. That's the reason we do the weekly roundups. We condense them. We want to we understand that daily content is a lot of content. And that's the reason we don't make it, series, so that you have to listen to every single episode in order for this one to make sense. If you miss one every now and then, it's okay. There's going to be some great stuff here tomorrow, right? That's the great news about this show.
Right.
And so for me going into it, that was sort of my mentality and my thought process is like, well, if I'm going to do this, in order to give the best contribution, I looked at it as every piece of content is essentially a relationship building tool for us and someone else, right? We're creating a relationship, we're adding value to somebody's life. So, well, how often do you want to do that? Well, how quickly do I want to build this business? I want to build it quickly. So in order to do that, I put out more content. That means I'm building more relationships. I'm adding more value to more people's lives on a more frequent basis. And that, to me, is the formula for quickly, developing those relationships and sort of establishing it. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Well, I have another question, though, because you're saying, well, no, I'm just going to go in. So my other question, and by the way, everyone, we haven't even talked about this. He has no idea what I'm asking. All of a sudden, I'm just asking him these questions. So I'm totally putting him on the spot, which is fun. But my question to you is that we just hit our 3-year mark that we've actually been partners. And in the beginning, we certainly didn't actually have a business where we put stuff out. It took us months to actually start, even though we were incorporated. But we just hit 3 years. The first 2.5 years, we had a blog. We had some content, but it never stayed consistent, ever. It was one of the things that we were always like, oh, that's right, we need to do that. And we even put schedules in place, and it didn't happen. It was always the thing that fell off. So my question to you is, how did this happen, knowing that we came from there? And it goes right along with consistency, because we weren't consistent by any means. And now you've been consistent for 100 days straight. How does that happen? What happened so that this could happen? Because I think a lot of people know everything that you just said and realize that's true, and they want to be like that. And we wanted to have content.
Yeah, I remember a conversation. We did this in our Ignition Mastermind. We did this,
right.
We did this exercise, and I remember
put it on the board.
This room of people, and we're telling people, all right, we're going to go through this exercise, and we're actually going to do it with you, because we've got this thing that we've been trying to do and trying to stick with for, well, a year at this point. Yeah. And we haven't been able to do it. And we were talking about the blog and being more consistent with it, because we both sort of knew that's that's what would really help, and other stuff got in the way. And so I remember like us even doing that, like in
front of people for accountability, and had the whole schedule out, and that still didn't actually work at the end of the day. So that brings to the great question: how have you been able to be consistent? What happened? What shift? I mean, I'm interviewing you. What shift took place for you in January that made this happen? Because it hasn't been easy. There were definitely days where you were stressed about, oh my gosh, I'm behind and it needs to go out tomorrow. But there's been days where you've had an entire week in advance. So how did it happen?
Well, I think the first thing because it started about mid-December. And whenever you start a new project, at least for me, I love new things, right? Like one of my favorite things is just driving around and finding new places. So me as an individual, I love experiencing new experiences. They're fun, right? And this was a new project for me. It was something that, okay, well, I've never done. I've tried it several times. It's never really done it. But whenever I looked at it from the lens of this is a new relationship that we're building with new people on every day, like this is... And I keep going back to that question, like, what's the best contribution that I can make for this business? And that's the question that I asked myself and came up with this answer. And it's one of those questions that, you know, I'm in a business with you. I have a partner, right? I'm not going to do anything that I don't believe is not the best contribution to that business. And that's something that I wanted to be able to look back at the end of this year, the end of 2016, and say, you know what? I created content every single day. There was content going out. There was relationships being built. And as a result of that, now we have this audience that enjoys us, that likes us, that knows us better, that's received value from us. And if we make a recommendation to this audience, they're likely going to take it. And so that's the sort of the thing that I was working towards, and getting really, 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 really clear on what I actually wanted to do, and just spending some time, like I spent some time imagining that I already had a year's worth of content published, and now we have the ability to, you know, record an episode and have people move and go and do something, or go and invest in something, or, you know, people funnel over to our email lists. And so I just put myself there, and by experiencing that, I validated, okay, that is something that I want. I truly want it. And so just what are the steps, right? Like, what are the steps that I have to do in order to get there? And for me, I mentioned in the beginning, you know, I think it's episode, you know, somewhere in the first 5 or 6 episodes, I talk about my game plan for how I'm going to actually do this. And that is batch processing is a big part of it. You know, us doing multiple episodes at one time. If I had to show up every single day and think from scratch of something new to put out and create it and then record it and then edit it and then publish it, and I had to do that every day, we wouldn't be on episode 100 right now. It wouldn't happen. Now, there have been days and periods of days when that has been the case. Like, I had to get tomorrow's episode out today because I said that I would do it. And a big part of that was public accountability for me. Because if you listen to the first couple of episodes of this show, like episode 1, 2, and 3, and probably 4, like, I made one of the biggest promises that I've ever made in my life. And I did it publicly on this show and said, you know what? There's no possible chance that I'm going to fail at this. I'm going to put content out every single day. It's going to be in these 3 formats: text, video, and audio. And I won't miss a day. And I said that over and over and over. And when you say that, and then you have people listen to it and give you feedback and be like, okay, I heard you. I'm rooting for you, Justin. I really do hope that you don't mess this up. When I know that that's the situation, those days when I do have to do tomorrow's episode and I really don't want to, I show up and I do it anyway. I worked on Christmas Day because I wanted to. I worked on Easter because I wanted to. For little short times, I didn't stay the whole time, right? I've got a pretty balanced schedule, but that's really what drives me. That's what, I guess, caused this amount of content to be published up to this point.
So I think there's a great takeaway right there for the fact that, you know, because you're doing something right now consistently every single day, getting this out there, that we weren't able to do, even though we both of us were writing. You know, I had to write 2 times a week or 2 times a month. You had to write, and we had this stuff. We were both working on it. But at that point, what I see is that we just knew it was something that should be done. It was a should. It was like, that should be done. And, you know, in Tony Robbins' words, you know, you should. I won't go into that, but it's not going to get done, right? And so this turned for you into, it's not a should. You had the vision of it was already done. And you had the vision of seeing yourself and look what's going to happen when you do all this. And looking from outside, you've been adamant that this is going to get done, and there's no way of changing your mind. And I think it was that conviction that you had that's probably made it to where it is. And it's only getting faster because now we've got other things put into place where you are going to have your time freed up, and look at what, there's a lot more things that are going to be able to happen and be better because the foundation has been built, the consistency, the audience, and it's just going to continue to grow. So I think that's a big takeaway. We all know we should be consistent, but there was a big shift in your mindset that allowed you to become consistent, is what I would say.
Yeah, there was. I mean, and that's real. And there's been times, what's interesting is there have been times recently, 2 or 3 months into this, when I've even thought to myself and said, you know what, I wish I could get back to those, like the second half of December and the first half of January, because I was so fired up then about this project because it was something new, right? And I was excited about it, and I was making forward momentum, and I was running, and it was fun. And so I think that's another takeaway, is that in the beginning, whenever we start something, at least for me, and I'm curious to hear if is this.
I would agree too, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. I know where you're going, so I think a lot of our listeners would.
Like in those beginning stages, do whatever you can to make it as easy as possible for you. So my initial goal was to get as far ahead as I could, and I was batch processing, and I was able to sort of ride that wave for a little bit, and think outside of other than just create content, because there's more thought that has to go into it, other than the actions of publishing and recording and editing and all of that stuff. Like there's more stuff that has to go into it to make the show better, to make it more enjoyable, to make it effective for us, where people are listening and actually going and taking action and signing up for our email list and doing those type of things. And so these are all things that we'll spend more time on and make better. But initially, whenever you start something, I think we've got this little window of it's like a fresh start. I mean, we're able to be more effective, and we're in flow or in the zone or whatever. And so, if that's you, if you can recognize that, just know that that doesn't always last 100% of the time forever, right? That momentum sort of goes up and down, and you've got to make sure that you capitalize on it whenever it's whenever you've got it, you want to make the most of it. So, speaking of Tony Robbins, you mentioned something about him earlier. He's got this quote that talks about consistency, and we can talk a little bit more about consistency as well. But he says, in essence, if we want to direct our lives, we must take control of our consistent actions. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but it's what we do consistently. And I think that sums everything up, right? It's whatever you want to do, you got to do it consistently, right? Mm-hmm.
I think it. Go ahead. Oh, well, I was going to say, I think a lot of times wanting to do things isn't just enough, though, because if you want to do them, there's still things that are going to come into place, and for whatever reason, they don't happen. So being able to figure out, yes, what do I want to do? But I think the next section is kind of how. How am I going to actually be able to do this? And that was a big question in the beginning of, well, how is this going to happen? And you had a little bit of an exit strategy. Well, I'm going to be doing this now, and then eventually I'm going to be able to pull it into this. I'll get some people to help me with this, and then it'll be running and free up some more time. And I think you had realistic expectations going in, where it might be hard for a little while. It might be messy, and then I'm going to have to figure this out as I go along. And it wasn't perfect. And I think there's a lot of people that will kind of fall back. They have these expectations of stuff that they want to do consistently. And as soon as things don't happen or it's not as easy, and it's just like, well, this just isn't working. And that's literally what happened to us before. This isn't really working. And we just let it go. So you put things into place where you were accountable to others. You created routines. You eventually created specific tasks of what you were going to do, what you might be able to give to others. And eventually having this vision, it was able to come to fruition where literally right at this moment, we do have others that are freeing up your time, and we're going to be able to make this even better. So I think even wanting is not enough. It's putting things into place. And so how did you take that next step just to figure out, like, because being consistent means you've got things put into place to make it easier to be consistent.
Yeah. So one thing that you mentioned there, you said the expectation. And I think that's so incredibly important, because my expectation when I was starting these episodes is that it doesn't have to be perfect, and it won't be perfect. And I think that's something that trips a lot of people up. It tripped me up in the past from starting this show. I wanted to have everything perfect, and we talked about starting a similar show for, I don't know, a year. And we had the interviews, and a lot of the original interviews that we've released here on the Results 513 show, they were recorded months before I even made the decision to start the Results 513 show.
Yep.
And so I think initially recognizing that I didn't want to get bogged down in perfectionism or procrastination or anything like that, I was okay with understanding that these episodes are not going to be perfect. The naming structures are not going to be perfect. Where I save the files are not going to be perfect. The tutorials I create for people may not even get used. And that's okay. I didn't really care. I was just doing it with that expectation of moving forward every single day, taking consistent action, just working towards it. And I was sort of in flow and really enjoying it. So what was your question again, Brenda?
Oh, no, that was just, what did you put into place? And I think that's right there. I mean, you just had the expectation. I think there were, like, as far as takeaways from some people listening, like, how do you be more consistent? I know one of the things because this whole thing has been a journey. It's trying something out for brand new is a journey for anything. It was harder for you to get that momentum back after just a little while. And so we talked about our accountability meetings, but that's really kind of when that came about was, you know what, this is getting a little bit hard. I'm getting a little bit behind. I don't like where I'm going. I need to put something else in place. And I see it as that one accountability meeting that we started putting in place was something that also helped you be able to get over that and go forward. So, I mean, that's definitely one. I'm not sure if there's anything else that you might have put in place just to help you be more consistent, but it's just an idea, a takeaway for people listening. What can you put in place if you find that the consistency is starting to become a chore as opposed to a habit?
Yeah, one thing for me is rituals and habits. So I developed I picked back up my morning ritual. When I started this, when I had the idea in mid-December, I was not doing a very specific morning routine. I was doing a morning routine, but it was very basic, very generic, very vague in terms of what I did. My rule was I just take care of myself before I start business, and I start business about this time every day. And that's kind of the only boundaries that I set up. But when I started doing this, I got really specific on it in terms of what I do and what time and like how long it takes. And I spent some time there, and I was working that morning routine because that really fueled me up for the day. And I think that contributed to the feelings that I was having of, being unstoppable and really taking this journey on and, not being scared of, I got to create new content for today, or I've just really committed to doing 3 versions of content every single day for the entire year. Like, that stuff didn't faze me because I had taken care of myself. I got my mind right. I was well balanced going into the day. So a morning routine was key for me, in addition to an office routine. So separate from the morning routine, when I come into the office and it's time to actually start work and putting the work in, I needed to make that part of my day consistent. And so I had this routine, and I still have this routine. When I come into the office, I do these few things, and those are the things that really set me up for the biggest chance of success during that day. All right, so being able to actually do that, so routines are big for me. Mm-hmm. There's, another sort of rule. If you want to be more consistent, you've got to realize that every now and then we have to do things even when we don't feel like them. Doing things or not doing things because you don't feel like them is like the enemy to consistency. You will not be consistent if you make your decisions based on, I don't feel like doing this, so I'm not going to do it. That's not good enough. That cannot be an excuse for you. You have to go like there's got to be more to it there. And, we could talk about this for hours probably, but this is something that we see from a lot of the people that we interview, right? Like we all have those days when we don't want to do something, or we feel like we would just rather go lay down and, not do what we're doing, but we have to do them. And I think that delayed gratification, which I've heard you speak about in the past, that having the discipline to delay that gratification and really not focus on the moment, like, oh, this kind of sucks in the moment, but this thing that I'm working towards, how will I feel when this is done? And really focusing on that's been something that time and time again has pulled me through and made me show up every single day and put content out. And 100 episodes, we've literally had one due to a technical glitch, one episode that went out like 2 hours after it was scheduled to go out. Every other episode has went out at 5 a.m. every morning. 3:30 a.m. the podcast goes live every morning. And so in order to have that, it's like I know that I'm going to break that chain. I'm going to break that streak if I don't do this thing that I need to do, sit down and record or edit or publish or whatever, just because I don't feel like it. So doing things because you don't feel like them, that's not really an excuse either. And I think once you start getting into the routine of doing things, it does become more of a, you've mentioned the muscle memory. Your body gets into the routine of doing things, and it's just what you do. If you've got your routine, you've got your things put in place, this is just what you do. And keep in mind, when you're in this position, when you're building your business, you're the one that's building your business, and you can build it any way you want to. It doesn't have to follow any specific guidelines. What works for you, put it in place, only work a couple hours or work 5 hours and then be completely done. It's totally your call. And that's the beauty about this. So being consistent really is a choice. It's a choice of what are you going to put into place, put some accountability together. You have to want it, but you got to make sure you've got a bigger vision than just wanting it, because the want's not going to get you through. So, looking back at the last 100 episodes, I know I don't know, I guess I would, if I'm in 4 a week, I'm probably in like maybe 3/4 of them. Going back and looking at what we've done, it's been amazing. But right now, knowing where we're going, I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the next 100. And even the next 100 after that. I mean, how cool. We're going to have over 300 in a year, obviously, 365. So that is a lot of podcasts of information going out, and just the vision of what we're doing and where we're going and the help that we're having now to be able to free up time to do other things that are more enjoyable and more fun. It's just an exciting thing. So putting in the work and doing what's necessary and getting just things sorted out, it's very exciting. So I mean, from me to you, congratulations on all the effort that you put into here. We've got 100 episodes. We've got a lot more coming. And the quantum leaps that are going to be coming from the efforts right now are going to be vast. So it's really cool, and it's going to be fun to watch. Yeah. A couple more things on how to be consistent, and we'll wrap this one up. Because I do want to make sure that we give plenty of value in this one, some actionable things that people can use. Because, I mean, consistency is everything, right? Like if you don't do the thing that you're currently doing in your job or your business or career or whatever, and you're not consistent with it, you know that that's not a good thing, right? We need to be consistent to get these results that we want, whether it's working out or anything. So one thing for me is focus on, like, really take responsibility for the process and not the potential results. So whenever, like, I use this when I'm working out as well. Like, I don't take responsibility for the results that are going on in my mind. My responsibility is to get my ass out of bed and show up to the gym and do my workout. That's all my responsibility is. And if I look at it like that, then it becomes very black and white for me to be able to say, okay, do I feel like doing this? No, that's okay, because I don't operate based on how I feel anyway. I committed to doing this. I know that all I have to do is show up. I want this result that I'm going to get over here. And so focusing on the process instead of focusing on, oh man, I did another thing and I still haven't got that result, or I did another workout and I still don't have, the size arms that I want, or the small waist that I want, or whatever, right? So focusing on the actual process has been big for me. And another thing that can really contribute to you being consistent or not being consistent is there's got to be a level of, do you enjoy what you're doing? It's always going to be easier to stick with either a program or a routine or a process that you've put in place if there's a level of enjoyment to it. If you enjoy it, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like if we despise and like hate what we're doing, it's going to be a long road. And there will be times when you question that, and that's one that I would empower you to not forget, because there will be times when you're going to question, why the hell am I doing this? I really don't enjoy this right now. And that's okay. When that happens, it's a sign, it's a trigger for you to step back and say, okay, what am I doing that I'm not enjoying right now? And get back in touch with your big picture, get back in touch with your vision and the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And that will help you be more consistent as well. So you can also use one final one in them, and then I'll be done here. Reminders in your environment. So put things in, make sure that your environment is a place that is conducive for you being consistent. All right. So if your workstation is not somewhere that really is conducive for you to getting work done, the work that you need to get done, spend the time to make it so that it is. Because if you don't, it might not affect you in the beginning. And sometimes in the beginning, it's whenever you've got that flow state and you're starting the project, your environment may have zero effect or very little effect on you. You may be able to come in and push the stuff aside and just go to work because you're so excited on it. But then there's other times when you're not that excited. And if you come in and the environment is not correct, if it's not set up so that you're conducive to staying focused and getting the work done that you need to get done, then it's not going to last. So that is also something that I think is very, very important when it comes to being consistent. Any final thoughts? We'll wrap this one up. I think we're about done here on episode 100. 100. Wow, it's cool. It happens quick.
Yep. No, to figure out what your vision is for where you want to go, figure out how it's going to feel when you're actually there, and then make sure you figure out the steps that it will take to get you there, and take action.
My recommendation to those of you listening or watching, if you haven't done so yet, if you're new, go back and seriously, I know I say it in a lot of the episodes, but go back and listen to the first few episodes, because you'll be able to hear me starting this journey, and you'll be able to see, I outline, okay, here are the tools that I'm putting in place and using to stay more consistent. Here's the way that I'm approaching this project so that I stay more consistent. And we're here at episodes 100 episodes later. That obviously worked. Those things have worked thus far, and they will continue to work. So definitely go back, check out those first 10 or 11 episodes. Those will give you a really good insight onto how I approach this thing and how I was able to do it. And you can apply this to whatever it is that you're doing, whether you want to do a regular podcast with weekly content or daily content, or if it's something else. It doesn't really matter. If you want to be more consistent, those first few episodes will really inspire you to do that. So, all right, we're going to wrap this one up. Brenda, thanks so much for hanging out and chatting during this episode.
Yep,
and,
absolutely. It's
looking
been fun.
forward to the next 100 for sure.
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so there you have it. That is how you become consistent in your business. We sincerely hope that you have enjoyed today's episode. If you did, we would love it if you would share this with someone else who you think will get value from it. If you've gotten any value from the Results 513 show in the first 100 episodes, we would love it if you would tell somebody about the show. That would be incredibly awesome for us, and we would appreciate it. And be sure and subscribe on iTunes by going to results513.com/iTunes, or if Stitcher is more your thing, you could subscribe there at results513.com/Stitcher. And if you would like to get the full experience of this episode, the notes, the links, the videos, everything, head on over to results513.com/100. Also, if you have not done so yet, do yourself a favor, run over to results513.com/show and download your free gift. It's called the 15 Must-Have Tools to Be Productive in Your Business. And if you are a high performer, this is perfect for you. You're going to love it. Download it, read it, apply it, and win. Thank you so much for tuning in to these 100 episodes. We'll see you in episode 101.